This week for our classic character profile, we thought we would take a look at Alec Gilroy. It's about time we look back at Mr. Gilroy. A few weeks ago, we obviously learnt of the sad passing of Roy Barrowclough. Talked a bit about the actor and his life and his times in and out of Corrie back then. So we'll be not going over that again today. Just focusing on the character of Alec and one that is quite beloved among Coronation Street fans, I think. Well, it's a very much a love to hate character because he was a bit of a Scrooge and a mean old.
Rich.
Yeah, he's kind of like, he's a bit Mike Baldwin-ish, really. I think they probably got on quite well together, or drove each other mad, one of the two. But he was in Coronation Street for quite a long time, between 1972 and 1998, although a lot of that was on and off. He's been involved in quite a number of big stories, and of course he was once landlord of Rovers Return, which makes him pretty important too. So let's have a look at the life of Alec. Gemma, hit me with some stats.
Well, he was born on the 22nd of May, 1935.
Any more?
His parents were Reg and Mabel Gilroy. He had two sisters, Edna and Brenda, brilliant names. He married Joyce Crosby in 1955 and Bet Lynch, unfortunate, in 1987, and had a child, Sandra Gilroy, in 1958. First appeared 26th of June 1972, last appeared 30th of December 1998. He was in 850 episodes, 61st most featured character.
Anything else?
He was born on the rough side of Weatherfield in 1935.
You didn't say, we always end by saying he was played by. I was supposed
But
to
I
say
thought
that
we
already.
already said
Roy
that.
Barrowclough.
I'm not going to treat the listeners
great.
like idiots.
Roy Barrowclough.
He was born on the rough side of Weatherfield in 1935 in a house on Gas Street that smelled of the fumes from the local gasworks and glue factory.
That sounds like one of these made up. It sounds a bit like the Yorkshire and Monty Python sketch. You were lucky. You lived in a house by the local gasworks and glue factory.
We lived in the gasworks.
He had a rough life.
He left school in 1949 and ran a performing ferret act before getting a job at the Weatherfield Majestic, which is a local theatre.
So Alec's life was in showbiz. He was the Simon Cowell of the 1950s, I think. He would, if Alec was still in Coronation Street now, I'm sure that there'd have been some kind of Britain's Got Talent, X Factor kind of rip-off thing.
This is the thing. All of this local talent and kind of busty barroom babes singing in smoky pubs and stuff has been replaced by The Voice, hasn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, this is he was obviously into that as well, because back in, I haven't got dates for it. He was like, with Rita and everything, like you said, with the singing. But he was also very much into these novelty acts as well, a bit like
Britain's Got Talent.
No, I was just thinking like
dogs.
Dennis Tanner was into his novelty acts as well.
See, this is
that went away, didn't it? I think that was quite big back in the 70s and 80s. But when we were little, there was nothing like that on TV.
I think it's not just a fact that there were things like that back in the day, but also it was the kind of people that made Coronation Street who came from that world and therefore wrote about that world and acted and sort of portrayed that world on the screen. Because I don't think there were many other, I don't know, I obviously didn't watch TV back in those days, but it seems
things like the Gong Show and the variety show for the Queen and stuff used to be a lot bigger.
Well, we still have the Royal Variety Show here.
That's the one that I'm
UK.
thinking of. The variety show for the Queen.
Yeah, the X Factor for the Queen. We still have that, but
it's Saturday nights, isn't it? TV, which is now.
Well, that's taken over from the old entertainment halls and the singing and going out and dance. Like my nan used to say, "Oh yeah, I used to go out dancing when I was a kid."
But we grew up in the era of Gladiators, Blind Date, Noel's House Party kind of stuff, didn't they? And the very idea that there'd be any kind of talent show or variety act on TV. I remember watching back clips from the 70s and thinking, blimey, the people used to just enjoy watching people perform on stage. That must be so boring. And now that's everywhere, and it has been for like 15 years or so. Ever since Kim Marsh first appeared on our screens, in fact.
Did you ever see the clip of the guy who was saying he could jump on an egg without breaking it?
Yeah.
That was on the news.
Simple pleasures. Simple.
I think you're forgetting that this was done in real life before it was ever on TV.
Yes.
And that's what I'm talking about. None of these characters were involved in television, were they?
No.
That's what I'm talking about. You've jumped from live acts to television shows which mimicked what people would have seen in the pubs and clubs.
Yeah.
And then now what we've got, which is just like the slickest showbizy version.
Another pop group.
Yeah.
Anyway,
the evolution of variety television.
Alec became
by two people that know nothing about it.
Alec became a skilled talent scout, and he was apparently well known for being able to spot talent at 50 paces. And one of his acts was Harry Crosby, who played the musical Saw.
Good.
He probably played the spoons as well.
How did he see him playing this musical Saw? Really?
He's probably playing the musical Saw in a club somewhere.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, how could you say you're really? There's no skill in being a talent scout. You go, and if someone's good at something, how is that hard?
Well, no,
anyone
that's not
can see
true.
if someone's good at
you
something.
can't all be. Not everyone's Simon Cowell.
What do you mean? How many
acts?
Seriously, has Simon Cowell actually made famous? How many people win the X Factor or get to the top 3 who carry on and have a healthy and robust singing career? My advice to anybody who's good at singing is don't go on that show.
Okay, maybe... No, I don't know.
The only ones I can think of is One Direction.
Yeah.
Even that horrible what's-her-face that I hated her guts. The stupid...
Leona Lewis.
That stupid soft cow. What's happened to her? She actually had talent.
I'll tell you what.
I didn't like her one bit, but she could sing.
What about Girls? Oh no, Girls Aloud wasn't Simon Cowell. That was the other one.
Simon Cowell isn't actually good at spotting talent. He's good at making money out of whatever he wants to do.
And cruel put-downs that are
he's not even good at that anymore.
Well, yeah, you wouldn't know. You don't watch it.
No, I know, but I've seen him mellow.
I think he's probably...
He had a kid and they turned him soft, didn't it? It turns everyone soft.
So anyway, musical Saws, and he falls in love with this girl, Joyce, who is Harry's daughter. So the musical Saw player had a daughter called Joyce, who was his assistant, and Alec fell in love.
What do you do? Oil up the saw?
I don't know.
How do you play a musical saw? Do you bend it? Or do you
I don't know. I imagine stroking it. I imagine with a bow.
With a bow? When you shred it?
Special bow. Made of wire wool or something. Gemma's going right on the internet to find out how music... We haven't even got on to what's actually happening in Coronation Street. This is Alec Gilroy's backstory that was made up by somebody, I don't know.
Liars.
1955, Alex and Joyce got married, and then in 1958 they had a lovely daughter called Sandra. Retcon alert, in the original continuity, Alec left Joyce while she was still pregnant, but it later turned out that it would be more useful if he actually did grow up with her. What, you found a musical saw?
It sounds like a theremin, apparently.
Oh.
A flexible handsaw played by holding the handle between the knees and bending the blade while bowing along the flat edge.
So it is with a bow.
The musical saw is found in the folk music of Russia and rural America.
And Weatherfield.
And is a popular vaudeville instrument.
Oh, well, there you go then. See, Alec probably saw that and said, you don't see many of them round here. You're booked. What happened? Majestic was converted into a bingo hall in 1971, and this is now when Joyce ran off with a footballer. Although when I was looking through these notes earlier, I'd written that Joyce ran off with a football. And that's just how rugby is invented. And she took Sandra with her. 1972, this is when he finally appeared on Coronation Street for the first time. He was managing the Victoria Street Working Men's Club, and he booked Rita as a singer on its opening night.
Can I stop you there for just a minute?
Tell me more about this musical saw, Gemma.
I've found a guy called the Saw Man in the musical.
Saw Man.
No, I can't remember what he's called.
Have you found a clip of a musical saw?
No, I don't know. Maybe I haven't. This guy, what's he called?
Come on,
shut up! He's called the Yorkshire musical saw player, Charles Hindmarsh.
Yeah.
And he is apparently the best at playing the musical saw.
But our listeners want to know what it sounds like.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to find it. I'm just making time. I'm filling up time. And you're just being annoying. He was on Britain's Got Talent.
Oh, probably everyone there, didn't they?
Swords crossed. Maybe that's a different person. Here we go.
Oh, blimey, okay, right. So here comes it. That sounds like a buzzer.
Problem is, it's not very cutting edge, is it?
You're in rehab. Right, anyway, that's it for musical swords, just to add a little bit of
It does sound like a
atmosphere to
theremin.
it. It does.
Like in Star Trek.
No wonder Alec and
He was ahead of his time. If he had got them to play the theme tune to Star Trek, he would never have left to have been in Coronation Street.
Where are we up to? 1975. So Alec employed Rita again, and she sang with Ernest Bishop accompanying her on the piano in a handful of venues across the northwest. That's not what Rita sounded like.
That's what they all sound like.
That's what Betty sounded like. That's what Betty Driver sounded like. So 1975, that was kind of the beginning of the end of talent, apparently. All that kind of talent, saw talent, because Alec's acts began to desert him and he sought work managing nightclubs. I think actually, I didn't write this in the notes here, but he inherited like 100 acts from another local talent agent after he died. I think Alec, I can't remember what the story was. But anyway, they didn't want to hang around with Alec, so he's a nightclub manager after this. Later appears in 1986, so he goes an 11-year gap without appearing on Coronation Street. And by now, he is managing the graffiti club on Rosamond Street. That's where the medical centre is now, if you don't remember that. And he's what's left of his acts. He's like they're entertaining the clubbers. I'm sure that all the punks of 1986 when they went clubbing,
really
it's
loved
like,
it.
oh yeah, it was a musical song. I love this one. And they got a trained ferret as well.
He poached Jack Duckworth and Gloria Todd as bar staff after the Rovers fire, but they went back to work there after it opened up again. Then he struck up a business relationship with Bet, which led to them growing closer.
There was a bit of a friendly rivalry going on because they were both like right next to each other, basically, and both attracting the local youth. There was a bit of a rivalry going on between them, and Alec ended up spending more and more time with the Rovers, and the graffiti club sacked him.
How's that for gratitude?
So the relationship turned sour when Bet suspected that he was only interested in getting his hands on the pub rather than getting his hands on her. So Alec then went to... Alec left to go on a Spanish tour with a cabaret package.
I want to go on a Spanish tour. I've never been to Spain.
Haven't you?
No.
Oh.
Take me to Spain.
Okay. 1987, back again. This is, if you remember us talking about Roy joining us...
Roy?
Yeah, Roy Barraclough.
Who are we talking about?
When we were talking about him the other week, in the little obituary, he was going on and off Coronation Street a lot, wasn't he? Because he was still like treading the board at the same time. So there had to be
I remember.
Lots of reasons for Alec to be going off. Spanish tour, why not? So he was back in Weatherfield next year, and he lent Bet £12,000 to buy tenancy of the Rovers. It was back then. Actually, I'd love to.
Now.
It is. I would like £12,000.
I'll go to Spain.
But
I'd buy Spain.
He had to be reminded by her that it doesn't mean that he owns the place. But then in May, Bet disappeared, so Alec had to become licensee, because that's how it works, apparently. He tracks Bet down to Torremolinos, and they actually filmed Coronation Street in Torremolinos then. I can't even remember the last time.
That?
Maybe that's Spain.
Where's Torremolinos?
I don't know.
Sounds Spanish or Greek.
It does. Oh, yeah.
It goes to show you how
Greek,
often we go on holiday anywhere in Europe. There's in France.
Yeah, I don't know where Torremolinos is. Anyway, they filmed that. I can't even remember the last time that Coronation Street filmed abroad. They must have been rolling in it in 1987, although that was height of the golden era, I think. He wanted to get his money back from Bet. Instead, he proposed to her and said, maybe we should run our pub together as man and wife. Now, back then, people didn't really like the idea of Bet and Alec getting together because there'd never been that much hint of a romance, I don't think, between them. And they were more like rivals, like always having a pop at each other and trying to kind of undercut each other and all that. But they decided to put them together, and it actually turned out working out quite well.
Torremolinos is in Spain on the Costa del Sol. We should start a Patreon to send us to Torremolinos so that we can see where they filmed these scenes.
Oh yeah, just like when we go to Manchester. We've seen everywhere in Manchester where they've filmed. We've seen
everywhere.
So now we've got to go abroad.
We need to go to South Africa.
Yeah.
And Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Where else?
On the QE2.
Yes. And if they do any more, we can go with them to sort of help them to recapture the spirit.
I'll tell you where we haven't been.
What?
Rory's Beach. I don't think we're allowed.
I don't think we're allowed.
Anyway, the couple got married in September, although most people tried to put them off. Heartbreak for Bette and Alec in 1988. That's when she got pregnant, and at the age of 47 she was, and then she had a miscarriage. So we got to see a bit more of a softer side to Alec then, because up until then he'd just been like portrayed as this really cunning, shrewd businessman, kind of only out for himself kind of thing. But he did have a tender side, and it just didn't come out very much. I think he was kind of afraid that people would abandon him or whatever. He didn't want to show his true feelings. But when this miscarriage storyline came along, he wept with Bette. Now, what happened in 1989, Gemma? I'm going to have some tea. You tell everybody.
Taxman strikes, ruins everyone's fun as usual. But the kids have got to have their free school lunches, and the bins have got to be paid for. So someone's got to cough up, and it turns out Alec has been not declaring some earnings. His artists haven't been paying tax, and he has to pay £8,000 on their behalf. So he goes on a 9-week tour around the Middle East to earn the money back.
Another reason for Roy to go off work there for a little
bit. What
bit.
kind of acts would you get away with now, taken to the Middle East without being arrested?
Well, you go and entertain the troops in the Middle East at the moment, wouldn't you?
Oh, I guess you could do that, but you can't take a ferret. I think they're illegal.
You have to get a pet passport for it.
No, they're too sensual. very, very, very lithe, aren't they? Live
Can you take a saw on a plane? Not in your hand luggage,
I don't think you're allowed to get hand luggage.
It's not a weapon.
That's interesting, because quite a lot of
instrument of music, you uncultured slob.
You swine, you Philistine. Yeah, because you're allowed to take, but you have to pay, don't you? If you want to have your musical instrument on a seat on the plane, you've got to pay for it.
Mm.
But I don't think they let you take a musical saw. What's next? A musical gun?
Musical bomb.
Boom, boom, boom.
Oh,
inappropriate.
We're too irreverent on this podcast sometimes. I do wonder. But
we do not agree with bombs or guns or musical saws if they're used for evil. Okay, let's leave it at that. Where are we? So we came back to Weatherfield in May and find that Bette has gone out with Paul Rigby, husband of her friend Stella.
Stella Rigby was the woman who was in charge of the Weatherfield Arms, I think, the Flying Horse.
He demanded a divorce, and she called his bluff and hires a solicitor, and she files for divorce due to his unreasonable behaviour. But then they make up and go back to Spain again for another late honeymoon.
This is what they were like. You know, we were saying they were always getting each other. They were a bit like, in the Twits when Mr. and Mrs. Twit are
go on honeymoon in Spain.
No, when they're making Mr. Twit makes Mrs. Twit think she's getting the shrinks, and then she puts his glass eyebrow in his tea. You know, they had that kind of relationship.
Yeah, but the Twits don't go make up and. Don't remember that bit. Did you have a dodgy version of the Twits?
Yeah, and then the Twits lived happily ever after. No, they just died horribly at the end.
Yeah.
Spoiler.
Right, so they look. I want to break up with you if we can get back together and go to Spain.
No.
Why? What's wrong with Spain?
No, I just want to break up. It seems like too much hard work.
Track down his estranged daughter.
Not in Spain. Who
is now married to Solicitor Tim Arden and has a grown-up daughter, Victoria.
Yes, they expanded the Gilroy family. I think this is when they retconned all the stuff about when his daughter Sandra was really born. But yeah, she's back in it in 1989. She didn't really want to know him because, as far as she was concerned, he abandoned her, I think, when they were little, even though I think it was obviously Mum that ran off with the football. And she doesn't want him to be part of it.
Ran for the football?
Yes, I said earlier, wasn't it? Footballer. You laughed at my...
I don't...
You can't remember.
I don't... It's beneficial that I don't listen to most of what you say.
Yeah.
So she says, I don't want to be part of my life. But then Bette has a word with her and she says, okay, well, you can be in my pen pal or something.
And this sows the seeds for more Arden stuff later on.
In 1990, Alec and Bette fight against Nigel Ridley, who wants to turn the Rovers into an American-style bar.
Oh no!
Now, I remember this coming up before.
Yes, we have mentioned this a few times, haven't we?
Luckily, Cecil Newton stops the move in the nick of time, and then Alec gives everyone free drinks and puts the prices up the following day.
What a miser. If there was like, do you remember on the Tech Santa a few years ago when they did the Christmas Carol and it was Norris? Was it Norris that played Scrooge in it? It'd be Alec these days, I think.
In those days.
In those days, sorry, yeah.
1991, Alex wanted to sell the Rovers so he could get money, open up a new club where the old graffiti club was, but his business partner Phil Jennings pulls out.
That's not a very interesting story, is it?
Then he managed...
Oh, what is this?
What? He managed his Alf's council election campaign against Deirdre, whose campaign was managed by Phil, so him and Phil fell out and then they had a fight by proxy with politicians, which is kind of like what Rupert Murdoch's doing to us.
Now, tragedy for the Gilroys in 1991, he discovered that Joyce, his ex-wife, that saw player's assistant, who that she fell in love with, has died. So he had to look after his granddaughter Victoria while Sandra and Tim went to the funeral. However, on the way back from the funeral, they were in a car crash and died. So it was a bit of a rubbish time going through there. And Victoria then had to go and live with Alec. And I remember Victoria from when she was first in it because she got married to Steve, first wife of many. She didn't really like the idea of living in Weatherfield. The first time that Victoria was in it, Alec was going down to see Sandra, and Victoria was clip-clopping ahead of him on a horse, and they got in his way of the car or something. Yeah, she was a horse rider. That tells you all you need to know about Victoria.
What?
She was posh. Posh people have horses, don't they?
Also,
lived in the country.
Travellers.
Yeah, but she wasn't one of them. Although she did travel on a horse, obviously. Anyway, she didn't like the idea of living in a dingy backstreet pub, but she kind of had to. So Alec...
Mind you, if I had a horse, I would ride it everywhere.
Yeah.
What's the point of it otherwise?
Exactly.
It's kind of useless and if you can't ride it.
Yeah. Leaving big steaming poos behind you wherever you went.
No, it's manure.
Well done.
I got really confused about what the word was. I was just saying menage.
What was... Oh, yeah. This is... excuse number 10 million for Alec leaving the programme temporarily in 1991. He got a job supplying performers for a cruise.
Yay.
So he went to spend Christmas and New Year on a ship, which Bet did not want. Whilst he was on board, he pretended to be a widower and refused to come home when Bet asked him to.
Either.
Shocking. But he did actually come home in 1992, but by August he went back down to Southampton again to manage entertainment on a cruise ship full time. Bet had initially agreed to go to Southampton with him, but she pulled out the last minute and Alec drove off angrily on his own. So that was kind of the end of Alec and Bet. They were
Why
never
is he driving
properly...
to Southampton?
Because he
Why is he going to park his car?
We have many car parking places here in Southampton with reasonable prices.
Cruise ship, I can park it round here, can't he? 1995, Bet summoned Alec back to Weatherfield.
We've got an empty garage, haven't we? You can fit it in
there.
No,
it's got stuff in it now.
Oh yeah, hasn't it?
Don't give it away, Michael. People will rob us. All our teapots.
People can come and take what's in our garage.
No, that's my nice things.
Oh.
Vicky gets engaged to Steve. Alec comes back to Weatherfield, but she is worried because she is worried that Steve's after Vicky's money.
No. Yeah, Steve. Bet thinks that Steve is after Vicky's money, so she summons Alec back to Weatherfield to try and sort them out. Alec tries to stop them from getting married, and he does, except then they just went off to St Lucia to get married. So
yes,
how's
St
about
Lucia.
That?
Oh, I want to go there.
And while he's there, Alec thought he'd have another little shot at Bet. So you take me back then, ex-wife? But she's like, no, you're just a sneak and a miser. I know what you are. And also, I can do better than you. And also I'm leaving the programme this year, so it probably wouldn't work out.
He was he based in Southampton then? He wasn't on a cruise ship? Because I think it would turn you a bit weird.
Well, he did a bit of both.
Wouldn't it turn you a bit weird if you were single, that age, going around on cruise ships by yourself?
Why?
Living by yourself in a tiny cabin.
I bet some people would love that.
It depends on what kind of person you are.
Well, if you're an Alec Gilroy, you'd think it'd be great. I wouldn't mind. As long as I could get the internet.
Yeah, but you would never be able to socialise with people properly.
That's fine. That's perfect
you'd
for
love
me.
it, wouldn't you?
I don't think Alex...
Leave me alone!
I don't think Alec had friends particularly. I think he had kind of people... He would be friendly to people in an attempt to try and convince them to spend more in his pub. but I don't think he really had.
I wish I didn't need
companions.
friends. All my friends hate me.
No, they don't.
They
They just
do.
watch Crystal Maze without you some nights. So, what else happened? I've lost where we are.
Well, he came back to Weatherford again in 1996
He was back again.
to manage Sunliners travel agency.
Yeah, so a little
Not
bit.
very happy about it because it was not as grand as being in Southampton.
Southampton, exactly. This is when
Sunny
Deirdre worked there as
Southampton.
well. He was Deirdre's boss for a
Bought
bit.
the
Then.
flat above the cabin to get closer to Joyce Smedley.
Not to get closer to Joyce
Well,
Smedley. It was
he
a
was
happy circumstance.
geographically closer to her. And then he fired her because he caught her stealing from the till.
Yeah, Joyce Smedley was Judy Mallett's mum, and Judy Mallett's the one that died while she was pegging out her washing. Joyce.
Well, she died of aneurysm.
Yeah, and Joyce Smedley
I
got
don't-
hit by a car
Ooh.
driven by Natalie's son. Tony.
Natalie's son Tony.
And I haven't even got that written down. I remembered that with my brains.
Well, I knew it was an aneurysm.
I'm pretty sure that's right.
You always die of them.
Anyway, he fired Joyce when she was stealing from the till at the Rovers. Tried to get back into showbiz in 1996. I tell you what, if he had got back into showbiz back then, he'd have that would have been right timing, because this was just a few years before the whole pop stars thing came back on the TV. He could have been Simon Cowell.
Can you imagine them ever
Of course,
having a
Simon Cowell.
storyline on Coronation Street where somebody was kind of semi-famous on telly or something? They kind of went that a little bit with Rosie, but then they stopped doing it.
They had
With her
that.
and Instagram.
Dennis Tanner had his act, Brett Falcon or something, who was supposed to be a pop star back then, and all the girls liked him, and they even released his Brett Falcon single in real life.
I can't believe it.
But apart from that, yes, that would be quite funny.
I'm going to have to
I think
listen back.
you're right. Rosie was the closest, because she went off to be a reality TV star, didn't
Yeah,
she?
she did.
So she's.
But she didn't really make it, did she?
Well, she
'Cause it
couldn't
was
have
all
been,
a lie.
because nobody knows
Who she is.
nobody knows who she is. No.
1997.
No, I was just going to say, when he was trying to get back into showbiz, then he was trying to nurture Fiona Middleton's singing career and Roy Cropper, because he just started it then. And Roy was one of his quirks back then was having a photographic memory or something, and so Alec was trying to turn his weird brain into an act, like just how great he is at remembering things. And I think there was even a throwback a few years ago when Roy mentioned Alec and how much she didn't like him, and he took advantage of him and was just trying to turn him into a sellout or something. I don't know. 1997 then. So he advised Rita into buying into the Rovers with the Duckworths, who were obviously struggling back then, before offering a 50% share himself. He told Rita not to do it so that he could do it. What a sneak. But anyway, Alec and the Duckworths did not work together very well at the Rovers. They were just trying to pull the wool over each other's eyes all the time. But they had their last laugh in 1998 when... Well, he by then he found himself getting a bit more attracted to Rita. They lived in the flats next to each
Well, you're not
other.
going to talk about this escort agency.
Oh, he was in. Oh yeah, he had an escort agency, Golden Years escort agency, and one of the clients died while they were on a date with Ken.
Ken never mentions this. Do you think he's got...
Well, that's probably the sort of thing you
PTSD?
like to forget.
Maybe they were wearing that kimono and that's why he liked it.
Maybe.
The stench of death.
Yeah. Anyway, Rita and Alec are a bit closer in 1998. They have they knock a door in the wall in their flat so they could come and go as they please. And he thinks that he's going to be able to get a ring on her finger, so he proposes to her twice. She's like, "No, mate, I'm fine as we are." I think he managed to swear her down eventually, and she says, "Yeah, okay, I'll marry you." Around that time, he's trying to evict the Duckworths from the Rovers after he gave them £30,000 of their half of the pub. He led them to believe that they would be able to stay in the Rovers, but actually he planned to evict them while they were away on holiday. Rita finds this out, tells the Duckies, "You better get back quickly because Alec's going to evict you," and that's when they barricaded themselves in, and all the residents passed Christmas dinners and things through their window to make a lovely Christmas special.
I remember that.
Alec's like, "Screw this for a game of soldiers, you're all nuts around here, I'm going back to Southampton where they're all lovely people."
They're all brilliant. Really cool.
He comes round to tea every week, doesn't he? And he
Well,
says,
no, I don't let him in anymore. Do you feed him through the window?
yeah, he's like the cat that comes in and sleeps on the bottom of our bed every night.
Oh, you imagine
Right,
waking up and there's an old man curled up at the bottom of the bed, and then you go, "What the hell are you doing?" And he goes, "Meow."
That reminds me of another Alex scene, which must have been around that time. I said that he had this adjoining door in his flat leading into Rita's. One night he goes into Rita's bet, hoping for a bit of how's your father, maybe, or maybe just a hug. I can't remember how close they were, but for whatever reason, Betty was sleeping in Rita's bed, so he climbs into bed with Betty. Yeah. And the hilarity, because obviously he was Betty's boss for a long time when they were working in the Rovers together, and I think he was a bit fed up with Betty working there and kept trying to get her sacked and everything, but Betty was pretty difficult to get rid of. Anyway, that's the end of Alec Gilroy, a devious, cunning, grumpy, money-grabbing miser, but he's got a heart of gold under there somewhere. He just needs to scrape away the layers to be able to find it. He was I don't think he was classed as a villain necessarily. I think he was quite popular.
Do you kind of hope this is what Pat Phelan's going to end up like? A kind of like sort of beloved, kind of villainy, love to hate kind of guy? Because some people really, really hate Pat Phelan. I think.
Oh yeah, I know.
We're quite unusual in that we think everything he does is amazing.
No. There were definitely factions on the internet of people that think that Pat Phelan's had his day, and us that's like will laugh with anything he does. But no, I think that Pat Phelan is more villainous, having been involved in major scams. I mean, Alec would try and swindle money out of people. He'd try and con the taxmen. He'd claim, he'd pretend he was paying workers that didn't actually work for him anymore, but he didn't try and swindle the whole street out of £15,000 each. He also didn't stand there and watch the local ice cream man die and then bash up and coming novelist over the head with a laptop. So he wasn't that villainous. He was just a bit nasty. He was very selfish and out for what he could get, and he just like any way of getting a bit of extra money for himself. Whereas Pat, he can't really redeem himself. What we were saying earlier, it'd be kind of nice if he did, I think. But yeah, I don't think he goes down as Corrie villain. He's kind of like Mike Baldwin. So do you consider Mike Baldwin as a villain of Coronation Street, or just
I don't really remember enough
lovable
about him.
rogue? I suppose when you were watching it, Mike was getting on a little bit anyway, wasn't he?
But I do like these characters who are in the grey area. That's why Tracy's one of my favourites. Why I like kind of like Charlie Stubbs too.
Yeah, you might.
Owen.
Yeah, you might have liked Alec then, maybe. I've got a quote here from Mr. Barraclough. He said, "The public loved to hate Alec because he was such a devious so-and-so and was up to every scam in the book. The viewers loved all that roguery." I think that's a good word, isn't it? Roguery. Do you like a bit of roguery?
I love a bit of roguery, especially on a Friday night.
Of course, when he got together with Bet, he was really up against it because she had the measure of his craftiness. So I suppose Nick's a little bit like him as well, isn't he? Like a bit of he can be a bit selfish. He's a good businessman. He's in for himself. I don't think that's not exactly the same thing.
I think
because I think you're kind of supposed to like Nick at the end of the day.
I think they're more realistic characters, though. I think a lot of people fool themselves into thinking they're more noble than they actually are, and they kind of retcon their bad decisions after the fact to excuse their own poor behaviour. But at the end of the day, a lot of people are more like Alec than they are like St Anna Windass.
And Saint Michelle, don't forget her.
Oh, Michelle, how could I forget? Immaculate. It's Michelle.
Another way that Nick is a bit like Alec is that he's like come and gone into Coronation Street as the years have gone on. I mean, I suppose it's been different that he's been, every time he's come back, he's been played by someone else. But
I don't think you could describe anything Nick's ever done as a roguery, though.
I'm sure you could. I bet T-Ball could think of examples. What about like when he was trying to convince Peter to go back on the booze so that he could get in the hands?
I know, but when I think of roguery, I kind of think of sort of like devil may care, kind of like I don't care what you think. I'm a villain to my core. Whereas Nick is more kind of like just I'm like an evil devil meddling.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway.
That's about it for Alec. Character who keeps coming and going.
Let's have another talent scout on the show.
I think it's past his.
Actually, can I just point out that we did, and he turned out to be a human trafficker. Nathan with his YouTube stars.
Oh yeah. What about when Dennis was in it a few years ago after they got rid of him when they shouldn't have done, they had a bit of a storyline with him being a talent agent, didn't they? Because they had Richie DeVries was the guy that he was hanging around with, wasn't it? And I think that storyline was a bit.
I don't think you can do that anymore. I don't think you can have talent scouts anymore, because I think that kind of celebrity has been replaced by
X Factor and Britain's Got
by
Talent.
chewed up, spat out old reality TV stars, a sort of thing we have to watch on bloody Big Brother every day.
But I mean, you do get
all of them have been on something else.
Yeah,
before.
but you do get the small acts, don't you? Like people who just like do the pub circuits. And
Yeah,
stuff.
but but those are those are minuscule. You would never have an agent. You wouldn't be able to afford an agent. I'm talking about the sort of people on Big Brother who have agents, and they're going in normal Big Brother. That have been on Chelsea. What's it?
But I suppose if
Geordie Shore.
If Alec was still in it now, you could have him like. I bet Rosie, he'd snap Rosie up, wouldn't he? Have her singing or going on every reality TV show going.
Actually, a lot of bloggers and YouTube people I know have managers.
Oh, well, there you go. Then he could be a blog manager if he'd still been around there. But alas, it's not to be. Right, that's about it for Alec. If any listeners have got any memories.
If you want to send us to Torremolinos.
Oh, I know somebody else.
You can send us a check.
I know somebody else who had an audition with Alec once. Jenny Bradley. She sang for Alec Gilroy.
I've just taken a big swig of cider when you said that. What did she sing?
I don't know what she sang. I just read that on Coreypedia today.
I wonder if anyone listening knows what that was, what that scene was like.
I don't know. Maybe they will tell us if they remember. But it is lost to the
mists of time
otherwise. Yeah.